Mm-hmm. All right, let's do it. Let's talk about Charmander. Tom,
Right.
any opening statements about Charmander?
Yes, so I do have a personal connection with Charmander, which is I had a Charmander plush when I was a kid. Um, it
Hmm.
was one from a claw machine in Blackpool, and I used to be very good at claw machines, like incredibly good at them. Um, and I remember winning a Charmander. I had a Charmander, and I also had an Eevee, but my dog saw the Eevee as a threat and ripped its face off.
Oh,
So the Eevee
oh,
did.
that's so sad.
Yeah, yeah. The Eevee didn't didn't live to see its first birthday, or whatever you could call a birthday for something that came out of a claw machine. Um,
Hmm.
but so yeah, so I remember that. I remember the anime stuff. The episode where it gets abandoned by its owner. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that was quite big at the time, and I feel like I have had numerous Charmanders across my gaming life. Like I'm pretty sure that you get one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you get one in Sword and Shield if I'm right. One of the most recent games, and I also used to think it was really cool that you could get it in Pokemon Yellow. Like I remember specifically getting that and being like, I mean, all the starters were like good, but I was probably at the age at that time, and I'd bought into the Charizard hype that I was like, oh, you get a Charmander in this game as well.
Yeah. Yeah, because because obviously, like all the starters, usually you expect if you don't pick it, you can't get it unless you've got a friend willing to trade you one. Um, and like, I I think it's a little bit sad that that exclusivity isn't there anymore because now I assume someone will want to trade me a every starter many times over. They are oversaturated in the games, um, a little bit, and like I don't know. I like it's fine. I get it. I definitely think it's better in terms of completing the decks. It's more possible. But like I do miss that sense of like like intense. If I don't like I have to make the right choice. I can't get another one if I don't, you know? Um yeah. And I think I remember I didn't have yellow, but some of the kids at school did, and they were telling me how they got their Charmanders and other starters. And I was trying to do the exact same thing in like red and blue, and I was like, I can't get it though, it's not there, and because it wasn't there in red and blue, and so yeah, that decision was always very crucial for me because I never played the version where you do get all the starters just for free.
Mm.
But yeah, I had many a Charmander. As we talked about on our Bulbasaur episode, they were frequently quite unimaginatively nicknamed. I've had many a Charlie Charmander uh in my Pokemon Red and Blue run-throughs.
Well,
Um,
I mean, I'm currently streaming Violet on the channel, and
mhm.
I got a free Coco, which is the new
Ooh.
fire starter, and I named it Forenzy, and I called it that because it's got
Ah,
it's got the word fire in it.
yeah. I so in my run through of um Violet, I caught a fletchling. And I called it Fieri because I thought that was a cute name for a fletchling.
Mm.
Uh, and then I dug out a different game that I hadn't played in a while, and I also had a fletchling called Fieri in that one as well. And I feel like I'm not getting more imaginative with my names. Like I think I am, and then it turns out I just have the same idea over and over again, and I'm actually not.
Well, in the Violet that we're streaming on the channel, um, People who are watching in the comments can give me suggestions for what to name the Pokemon, and the fletchling in that is called NFT. Um, uh, which I wish I was as funny as the people in the comments, but I do find it quite funny when it'll be like, you'll press some attack and it'll be like NFT did nothing. Oh, that's all NFTs for you, that then, innit?
Nice,
Uh,
nice. That's very funny. Uh, so, I think so. Charmander being the first fire starter, like I think Charmander's a good pick in the first generation of games because it's a long time before you can get another fire type Pokemon. Like there are lots of water type, there's a fair few grass types, but you don't really come across other fire types until you're already at Cinnabar,
yeah,
at which point it is likely that your team is pretty fleshed out. Like you've got the Pokemon you're going to use already and you've been using them for some time. So I think that makes Charmander a pretty tempting pick despite being weak to the first two gyms.
yes.
Um,
But even then, like once you've gone through the forest, once you've gone through Viridian Forest, like you can pick up stuff to like take on Brock. Um,
yeah.
and it's the same with Misty. Like once you go through Cerulean Cave and also not Cerulean Cave, Mount Moon, and then
hmm
go along to Bill's house, you can pick up like grass types by this point, which would be able to take on
Yeah.
both. So there's no reason why you can't like tag team against both of those gym leaders. So in some ways, yeah, it is harder to pick Charmander, but I'm guessing a lot of people did.
Yeah. Like I feel like in terms of the way that the game relates to the show, like Charmander being Ash's only starter that evolved means that you had like an idea of the kind of moves you could do, the kind of like Pokemon battler you could be from watching the show.
Hmm.
Because like as great as Bulbasaur and Squirtle are, they stay a Bulbasaur and Squirtle for the entire series. And so if you don't want, I mean, obviously you know they're going to evolve in the game, but like you didn't get to see it. So I think when it comes to playing, a lot of people would lean towards Charmander and think because you're going to be a big strong Charizard one day, whereas that like the mental image of Bulbasaur and Squirtle stayed Bulbasaur and Squirtle, especially for kids. Like the association was that they're still little and cute.
Mm.
Um, and obviously, like Ash's Bulbasaur and Squirtle like pulled their weight, won their fair share of battles and whatnot, even at the higher end, to the point that like as a kid, like I thought it genuinely was a strategy to like leave them unevolved because and like they do learn some moves sooner,
Mm.
but I don't think it's worth it ever. But I remember being a kid and being like, there's got to be some benefit to not evolving them, otherwise, like, why would Ash not evolve them in the show? And I guess in the show it's because like they have the animations for the characters. Like they don't want to change it up too much if you miss an episode because you have to watch it when it's broadcast. You don't want to like miss an episode and be like, what the fuck is this thing? I thought Ash had a Bulbasaur and it's not. There are plenty of like non-diegetic reasons why they didn't evolve.
Mm.
And I think a lot of it is like brand consistency.
Yeah.
Um,
Um, I mean,
but yeah.
it wouldn't surprise me if part of it is that someone very early on went, Charizard is a lot cooler than this big turtle and this lizard with a flower on its back.
Yeah, yep. That's a fair point.
Yeah.
I think I think like Charmander as a design, I like it's like simplicity as well. It's very like cute and simple and like lends itself well to its later evolutionary stages.
Mm. Yeah, it's um, all of the starters apart from one, which I'd say is Wartortle. I think that there's like a clear kind of line across for these starters. Like they must have been well thought out, you know,
Mm.
because I know that they had the trading element that they wanted to incorporate early on, and
Mm.
and they must have then gone, okay, well, how do we stop for people going, okay, I'll trade you my starter for your starter, and then, okay, well, we'll have three starters, so now you need at least three in order to
Mm.
have that kind of crossover. But yeah, Charmander line, I think is like someone must have established really early on. These are going to be very very popular.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think just like it's a good combination of like it's the kind of cute that lends itself well to like being less cute as it grows, which I like.
Mm.
Because some of the really cute Pokemon, as they evolve and get ugly, I'm like, I genuinely just prefer you cute. Like I don't like you're not good enough in battle for me to want your evolved form. Like I will do it for the dex, but I will think the little one is better.
Mm.
Um, but I think like I don't like when my Charmanders evolve, I don't miss them as a Charmander because I think the later evolutions make logical sense. They uh, they look their own kind of cool as well. And then yeah, I think yeah, as a starter, as the first starter, as like a brand mascot in a way, just Charmander does exactly what it needs to do.
Yeah, I was thinking about it in the run up to this episode. I like the fact that they're all lizards. Like,
Yeah.
like I don't know if that was done intentionally, but yeah, I like the fact that they're all some form of cold blooded reptile.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that works with Charmander as well because like lizards being like cold-blooded, but Charmander is obviously a fire type. It kind of like uh turns it on its head a little bit. It inverts the trope um and works. Just works. And yeah, I like it.
Yeah. So, um, we touched on it a little bit. We've got like the anime, which I think is
Hmm.
again very seminal in its popularity. In that, I think it's quite a sympathetic Pokemon in the anime. I feel like I want to say that's like one of the first times that we come across Pokemon that's not being treated correctly within the rules of the universe, even though they're all being forced to fight each other to an extent.
Yeah. Like yeah, I think so Charmander's story and also I believe Pokedex entry is one of the first instances you get of Pokemon being quite a dark show because like it's not like oh this Pokemon has been abandoned um and left to die and it's very explicit as well. It's like if the fire on its tail goes out, the Charmander will die.
Mm.
Not like it will, you know, get really cold and like be unwell for a little while. It will die. Like that means there are canonical instances of little sweet baby Charmanders having their light literally snuffed out. And that's tragic, especially when you're a child and like, you're the kind of child like me that formed like very intense emotional connections to the Pokemon in my Game Boy. And like knowing that a Pokemon could die, I think, yeah, it brought out that element of um like real dark subjects in the show. And that explicit reference to death as well, I think is just so um kind of profound, like makes you think about it before you really know what death is, I think.
Mm.
Um when you're watching the show as a child, obviously not now.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like this is before they got their a lot of the branding down. Like it feels like they don't go as dark as this anymore.
Um, I mean, I'm not watching the games as religiously as I have done. Uh, well, no, I don't watch the shows as religiously as I did when I was a kid. I have seen a handful of episodes here and there, but I have not seen loads of them. And I know they have some um like darker, deeper storylines. And maybe it was because like I was younger and more emotionally immature and
Mm.
sort of experiencing, stories for the first time. But I do feel like there's a lot in the um first season, the Gen 1 season, that like hit really hard.
Mm. Yeah,
Um
I mean, like yourself, like I don't watch the anime as I used to. I mean, it's made me think, with us doing this podcast, like when we get a little bit further down the line, I feel like I'm gonna have to just like do a big binge of
mm,
probably like advanced battle like onwards. But so I was watching a video, and it mentioned about how when they got Mewtwo in for the film, that in Japan they got the voice actor who voices the Phantom of the Opera, the Japanese version of the Phantom of the Opera, and the direction for that was that Mewtwo was this kind of tortured soul similar to the Phantom,
mm,
and apparently a lot of that ended up carrying over into the English dub as well when they translated the story. But it doesn't feel like, again, without me doing too much research, it doesn't feel like that amount of like darkness and gravitas has followed its
mm,
way through. Especially once they went, okay, this is a, a kid's juggernaut
yeah.
that like kids like to the point now where they're not really aging the series up with us; they're keeping it where it
Mm,
is.
yeah. I definitely feel like the earlier seasons were more mature in ways. Like they looked at, like, Jesse and James have some really depressing backstories, and like they met people who are going through like really difficult stuff in various episodes that I think the show has definitely got more sanitized over the years. And I feel like it has also fluctuated in quality. Um, and I think again, I'm not too familiar with the more recent seasons, but I know it has returned to like some better quality kind of style animation storytelling. Because like even the people creating it saw how bad and repetitive it was getting, um, in so many ways. And then I think that has meant that they are taking it more seriously and thinking about it more. But like, yeah, I haven't seen many people talking about like the big emotional gut punches that I think Charmander introduced. Um, because like I still loathe that guy who abandoned Charmander with all my heart. Like, is it makes me cry to think about some like that poor Charmander just trusting that he was coming back and him laughing about it.
Mm.
And I feel like now that I say that out loud, like maybe I identified with Charmander a little bit as a kid because like I was not a popular child, and I think like I knew what it was like for people to pretend to like you,
Mm.
and I really felt for Charmander. and I feel like maybe it's an important lesson to learn, like um to like stop giving people the time of day when they prove to you they're not worth it, you know.
Yeah, I agree.
Even if you've made a promise, it doesn't reflect poorly on you if they haven't upheld their end of the bargain.
Mm. Yeah. But Charmander doesn't have a sad ending. They
Mm-hmm.
they end up getting rid of that toxic relationship, and then arguably showing some of that toxicity in themselves a little bit later on down the line. Maybe that's what they were going for. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
they internalised
Yeah.
some of that.
Yeah. Maybe they did. I think like yeah, I think Charmander has one of the most interesting stories. I mean, oh no, well, I think in the first generation they all have quite interesting stories, but I think Charmander has like so much more personality than a lot of the others. Oh, actually, no, maybe that's not true. I just remember I think I remember Charmander's growth a lot because I feel like a lot of the other Pokemon that Ash has, they have an interesting like first episode,
Mm.
and they'll have like a few interesting follow-up episodes as it goes on. But largely, um, there's not a lot of like post introductory growth. But Charmander, you see its personality develop.
Yeah, yeah,
And it goes from being like scared and shy, um, and like loyal but in the wrong place, but then loyal in the right place, and no longer scared and shy because it has that support around it, and gets it becomes a more kind of like exciting, interesting little guy.
yes. Which I think can make it feel a little bit disappointing when it evolves.
Mm, yeah. I mean, I'm glad in a way that because like otherwise like it made it more interesting. Like disappointing in the sense that you're like, oh, but you were such a sweet, lovely baby. Why have you grown up all stroppy? But also, like, it was more interesting than if it was just nice the whole time.
Mm.
Like, where's the nuance? Where's like, and I get that all of the others are just nice the whole time. Fine. But like, I think that's why it stands out because it did something different, did something a bit more unique.
Mm. Yeah, and I don't think that they were expecting for it to be such a long term, story arc for them.
Mm.
Because I don't think any TV show really knows how long it's going to be running for. But yeah, it's nice to see that it gets its redemption. But I do think that there is a bit of I don't know. I like Charizard now, and I like Charmander then, and the in
Mm-hmm.
between bit I'm not as keen on.
All right.
Yeah. Uh,
Okay.
so shall we have a look at the Pokedex entries?
Let's do that.
Okay, so we have got um, here we go. Oh, this must be a layover from before. This is annoying for me because I know I've got to edit this out now. There we go. I tell you one thing that I do like about Ash's Charmander. I feel like they've got like they've got their own distinct personality from everyone else like in the group.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Bulbasaur's like feels like a little bit like kind of level headed,
Mhm.
and Squirtle's kind of your kind of I feel like he's kind of your cool guy. Um,
Yeah.
you know, he comes in with the glasses, but Charmander feels very not naive, but I feel like the most fun out of the three.
Yeah. Because like, because I think so. Squirtle and Bulbasaur kind of had a life before Ash. Um, like they both had their experiences before they joined Ash's team, but Charmander was a little baby. Charmander was a baby who was just abandoned. So Charmander was like has its entire growth with Ash. You
Mm.
see more of it. And I think that lends to that a lot, contributes to that picture that you get.
Right, there we go. We've finally got the Pokedex entries. So these are like, I feel like these are probably the Pokedex entries that are most likely to be read. I feel like out of everybody that kind of is into Pokemon, like because of how popular Charmander Charizard is, these are
Mm-hmm.
like I still remember the Charizard can melt rocks at 1,000 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like that was like a well known one. What we got here obviously prefers hot places. When it rains, steam is said to spout from the tip of its tail. Um,
Mm-hmm.
which, like, I think it's like you don't need the Pokedex to tell you that, surely.
Yeah.
Like,
Um, I love that first Pokedex entry begins with the word obviously. It's like, are you giving me obvious information then? Um, like, like tell me, like, if it's that obvious, don't tell me. Like, tell me something I don't know. That's your job.
yeah, that's.
Like, like if I get out my Pokedex and I go, oh, what's this Pokemon? And it goes, obviously, I'll be like, all right, attitude, fuck off.
Um, I do think that when someone explains something to you and they say obviously, I think that says that they're not quite sure if you understand even before you've started. But that's like, of course, steam's going to come from the tip of its tail. It's got a literal
Mm,
fire on it.
yeah. Yeah. Oh well. I mean, maybe these Pokedex entries get more informative as we go on. Who
Yeah.
knows?
Well, this time we're going to be skipping the ones that are repetitive. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the flame at the tip of its tail makes a sound as it burns, which to me indicates it's almost like a candle. You can hear it in quiet places.
I feel like is that not like all fire though?
That's true.
Like
That's
like
true.
you can hear fire crackle. Like
uh,
that's not giving me any new information about what's happening here. And
yeah.
is it like I think this is a thing where like people are like, right, what can I write down about this like lizard that's on fire? And then it's like, oh, I can hear the fire. And they didn't have any other ideas, so they're just like, all right, well, I'll write that down, and then I'll come back to it and update it later once I'm a bit more familiar with this Pokemon. But then didn't do that.
Yeah, I mean, whoever. Like, I don't know if this is Professor Oak or someone else, but it feels like they had had a bad week when they wrote this Pokedex. Um, Even the newborns have flaming tails. Unfamiliar with fire, babies are said to accidentally burn themselves. Which,
Oh,
yeah,
that's a bit sad. Like it's cute. It's giving me more information about um, you know, like I'm getting a picture of what it's like raising a family of Charmanders. Like, oh, what? But like thinking of a newborn. So the newborns have flaming tails. So like, and they accidentally burn themselves. Like, I hate that we're talking about this again, but like, does it burn the mother on the way out? Like, at
um,
what point does the tail catch fire?
I've actually got uh, a in canon answer to that. It is
Oh,
established that Pokemon lay eggs, so no.
that's a good point. But like, wouldn't the egg be warm?
I think the egg
Is the
would be
fire
warm.
lit inside the egg?
Um, Presumably not, because it needs oxygen.
So does the fire spring to life as soon as the egg cracks?
I think what happens is they come out of the egg, and then they like scrape the tail on the shell, and it's like a Zippo
Like a
lighter.
match.
Yeah, and it goes.
On the way out, it like, yeah, okay, I see that.
um, Now we've got the stadium entry, which if we remember, Stadium's professor, whoever wrote this Dex, and Red and Blue's professor, obviously did not get on. So let's see if we carry this on. Even the newborns have flaming tails. Unfamiliar. Oh, I was just.
That's the one
That
we
was
just
the
did.
Do you know what?
I mean, it's a different approach to the red and blue and yellow entries, which I appreciate. I think in this one, the stadium one is better. Because again, the other thing only told me stuff I already know about fire.
I think if I remember correctly, I feel like the stadium professor was shitting all over the red and blue professor, and I feel like they've only continued that form. So well done, you.
Yeah.
Um, so we've got here now Generation 2. Flame on its tail shows the strength of its life force. If it is weak, the flame also burns weakly. Which, that there feels like they're starting to establish the canon for Charmander. Like, that feels like that's connected to the anime, and it feels like it's connected to, like, kind of what we already know about them.
Yeah, I get that because like you do see like Charmander getting all riled up and like the fire getting bigger.
Mm.
Um,
And then we've got Silver, which is the flame on its tail indicates Charmander's life force. If it is healthy, the flame burns brightly, which sounds like the Silver Professor was like, Gold, you sound like you're having a pretty, like, depressing week. Like, I feel like we need to rewrite that entry, because you were basically saying the Charmander's going to die, when in fact we could,
yeah.
glass half full.
I do like the crystal edition as well. That's basically the same information. It says if it's healthy, the flame on the tip of its tail will burn vigorously, even if it gets a bit wet. Like,
How
cool.
much? How much is a bit wet?
Yeah, how wet can a Charmander get?
Like, yeah, like if you're like, say if you've got a Squirtle, and it's like, and you really want to be a dick to your rival, could you just be like, Squirtle, just
Aim at the tail.
just aim at the tail, yeah, just aim at the tail, and then once it's like knocked out, just be like, keep aiming at the tail. Like, get to the point where Nurse Joy can't bring it back.
Murder that guy's Charmander. Proper like you're not challenging any gym leaders because you're gonna be having a funeral for that Pokemon you just got. Because I'm gonna water gun directly on its tail.
Yes. So I think what we've just established there is that although we call Garioka Dick, he's actually not that much of a dick.
Because he didn't murder. I feel like that's a low bar. He didn't murder your Pokemon. I mean, I feel like I would expect that. That should be standard behavior.
And yet, is it? Is it?
I mean, obviously not. Well, in the anime, it is. Um, in the manga, it's not. In the manga, Pokemon die
Yeah.
all the time, and it's brutal.
Is that still the case now, though? Or again, is this like early where they hadn't quite set all the parameters?
No, the manga stayed pretty mature. Like, the manga was pretty vicious from the start. Because it's, like, obviously, like, different characters. And yeah, like, they have, like, an Arbok getting, like, sliced in half in it and stuff.
Oh,
And,
I have
like,
seen
all
that picture.
Yeah. And, like, even because in the first generation, the death of a Pokemon was a big deal. Like the Marowak death was a massive plot point, in the first game. That Team Rocket killed. They acknowledge that Pokemon die with the tower in Lavender Town. But like, yeah, it's a big deal for Pokemon.
Mm.
And then it is possible to kill them. And in the manga, it's just like it happens
Yeah.
if you go too hard.
I mean, again, I don't think it's a surprise that because they get rid of the Lavender Tower, don't they, in Generation 2? And I don't think that it's a coincidence that again they started to kind of like lock down like some of the kind of more overly kind of vicious tones of it. And I imagine them going, well, this cemetery for dead Pokemon, like that's probably high up on their list of things to take out.
Yeah, well, they didn't though because they did have like other cemeteries in the later games. They didn't make death such a core element of the story, but they still have, ghost types.
Mm, true. And I mean that's something. I mean we'll get to it eventually, but I feel like the ghost types have. It feels like some of these kind of darker dex entries.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Oh, I'm so looking forward to doing some of those.
yeah, like I mean, it's well known that like the Drifloon ones, like if you are a child and you see one, it might carry you up into the sky and you'll never be seen again. But
Yeah.
let's see if Charmander can top that for depressing. So we're in Gen 3 now. The flame that burns at the tip of it is that they've gone like these are like for some reason they've like I know that the fact that it's got a flame on the edge of its tail is like unique, but there is other things about it. But they're like that seems to be the one thing that they're continually hitting us over the head with. It's an indication of its emotions. A flame wavers when Charmander is enjoying itself. If the Pokemon becomes enraged, the flame burns fiercely.
How can you tell if your Charmander is like dying or just in a mood? If it's life force and its emotions.
Yeah, if it's just like I'm just really upset about the season finale of The Walking Dead, or like you've got to like look at the radio times and go what was on that might be depressing them, or have they dipped their tail in a bucket of water lately?
Yeah. Oh well.
We'll never know. The the flame that burns. We've already. They're getting lazy now. From the time it's born, a flame burns at the tip of its tail. That its life would end if the flame were to go out. Is that the first time that's been mentioned? I think it is.
Yeah, that is the first time it talks about the death of Charmander. Like it's implied by the way that when it is weak, the flame is weak. That it is implied that when it is dead, the flame is dead. But yeah, this is the first time it is has mentioned death explicitly.
Yeah.
And it took until Gen 3, so.
And that was only in Fire Red, which I'm guessing, because that was like the re-release, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that would have been the most popular out of the two, and the one that the older kids might have got. So maybe that's why they stuck that in there. Genuinely, right? So we're like chatting, but I'm also kind of having a look through these just a little bit ahead, right? And the leaf green one, right? I misread just then. I thought it said it has a preference for hot dogs. I was like, brilliant. We don't have all the stuff about its tail, but indeed it does, and it doesn't like hot dogs. Does it like hot dogs? We do not know. I mean, maybe that's the thing. Maybe it likes all hot things. So like, hot dogs, hot tubs. Is there anything else that's hot?
Hot chocolate?
Hot chocolate. Um, is there anything else that's hot?
Hot wings?
Hot. Yeah, these are the things these are the things it likes.
We're not going to talk about Pokemon anymore. We've been all night listing things that are hot.
Yeah. Yeah, those are the things it likes. Okay, the fire tip on its tail, right? With again, diamond and pearl and platinum, they were obviously getting a bit lazy there.
This is all very samey, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, it's all about its tail burning.
Tell us about what it likes about hot dogs and hot tubs.
Charmander likes hot dogs. Like, yeah, pretty much the rest of this is about if it's healthy, its tail burns more, and sometimes also about emotions.
Yeah.
And then when you get to Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, it goes back to sometimes you can hear the fire, which I fucking know. I know how fire works. And then more about it liking hot dogs and steam. And then in Shield, it goes back to pointing out that it would die. And then, yeah, I think these have all been used before.
Well, there we go. So that was the
Someone's copy and someone's homework.
Yes, I bet you Oak is fuming at Elm right now. So the next thing is we've got the Smog On rating, which is so for those of you who don't know, because we've got a few new viewers for today, there's this thing called Smog On, which is connected to the competitive battling scene, which I'm not particularly. I don't particularly know very much about it, but it's also something that doesn't particularly interest me. And we'll just get it up now. So here it is. All of its stats are in red, but I don't think that that's like a surprise, given that it is a
First evolution.
Yeah, first evolution, and it's got LC here, and LC means the little cup, which is like basically for I think starter evolutions. So
yeah.
So it don't have great stats, but I don't think that that's anything. I don't think that that's anything to do with itself, as it were. Like if it was a single stage evolution, I'm sure that it would actually be quite. I'm sure that it would actually have fairly decent to middling stats.
Yeah.
It's only because Charmeleon and more so Charizard pop along that I think probably drop that down.
Yeah, definitely. Like for like a little baby brand new Pokemon, it's all right, decent.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if you know you're starting out your game and you have the option of this or like a Pidgey, or a Caterpie, I think this one's gonna be your boy.
Yeah, but I'm not so sure whether or not this would. I don't know if this would get designed on its own anymore. Like if this was like a single stage, I don't know if they would just keep it like this, or if they'd kind of make it a bit more Charmeleon like, or maybe add some like little wings on there or something.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm not great at speculating about like what would happen. I do think Pokemon designs are getting more complicated. I don't mean that in a bad way, because I guess there's only so many simple designs you can do, before you know you have to start adding things to make them unique.
True that. And the first wave have definitely got in their favour that there's nothing else to compare to.
Mm. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I feel you.
So we've done Charmander. Um, we've done Charmander. We've seen the Smogon rating that it's used for the little cup. Um, what are we going to give it as our Trubbish rating?
Trubbish rating. I think because you see it raised from a little baby and it's so good. I would give it like a full fat 9 out of 10.
Well, that's fair. I'm actually going to give it a. I'm going to give it an 8.
An 8.
I was about
That's fair.
I was about to go 7, but I thought it's a tiny bit unfair in it. But I already thought about this in the run up to this episode. Like I I feel like I know what I'm going to be giving the other two off the back of it.
Okay,
Right.
I feel that.
So just before we finish this episode, just on Charmander, do you have any spicy takes?
Spicy takes. Um, little Kirstie, stop calling your Charmander Charlie. It doesn't suit it.
I
Not
could,
by the time it's all the way grown up. It's bad. Stop it. Give it a better name.
surely you could have called it like Charmy.
Charmy. I know. I thought I wanted to change it a bit. Otherwise, yeah. I don't know.
Or Mandy.
Mandy. Mandy would have been a better name, I think. But then only like 12% of them are female. And although Mandy isn't necessarily a girl's name, Mandy Patinkin is a guy. But like, I don't like that all of the starters are like skewed towards being male. I don't know why.
Mm.
I don't know why they made that decision.
Yeah, it should be 50-50 really, shouldn't
Yeah.
it? Or as we've just said in the chat, Gerald.
Gerald. Gerald the Charmander. Next Charmander I catch, I will call Gerald just for you watching at home.
The next one you catch or the next one you get sent by Nintendo because they've got something new to hawk.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see when my next Charmander is.
Okie doke. So that was the Charmander episode, which is now available to be heard from all of your places where you would normally like listen and view and stuff like that. And we have the link tree, don't we?
We do indeed. You can choose, you know, your place to follow us of choice on our link tree, and the episodes after we do these streams are edited down into one Pokemon per episode and uploaded to our Podbean. And I've dropped links to both of those in the chat, so you can have a look at the link tree. You can have a look at the Podbean, and the Podbean has further links to the different um, platforms that it can be found on, depending on like which podcast hosting platform you use, or you can download them directly from our Podbean.
Okay.
That's